Welcome, my friends, to a new episode of Frameworks. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about TKF, or Teacher's Knowledge of Frameworks. It is actually our new teaching examination that is especially designed for this series of videos focusing on teaching frameworks. I've received a lot of wonderful comments from many subscribers and followers, and they really loved the series. So at Britishey Training Center, we had a meeting and we thought about how we would turn this into something, that is more practical. And we decided to design an exam. And this exam would test your knowledge of English language teaching frameworks. And we designed this exam so that it is based on the episodes we launch on our channel, which means that those watching at home and following the series of frameworks, once they finish studying these episodes and watching them while taking notes and studying well, they can come and sit for the exam at any branch for Britishey Training Center or a validated exam provider, and they can take their TKF exam, Teacher's Knowledge of Frameworks. Now I want to talk to you about the exam in terms of designing and in terms of what kind of questions will be in the exam and how you're supposed to answer these questions. So let's go and check this together. Now, first, the exam is made of two papers. So paper number one is a kind of an objective test. And when I say objective test, I mean by that questions have, specific answers. And it's a closed book test. And when I say closed book test, I mean that you're not allowed to research the internet. You're not allowed to take books with you to the exam, trying to find answers. So it's a closed book exam. That's for paper one. Paper one takes up to 50 minutes, and it contains 5 main tasks. Task number 1 is for 12 marks. Task number 2 is for 8 marks. And task number 3 is for 15 marks. Task number 4 is for 10 marks. And task number 5 is for 25 marks. Now, what are the aims of paper 1? What are we trying to test? Aim number 1 is to increase candidates' knowledge of terminology related to the teaching frameworks. Aim number 2, to help candidates recognize teaching framework in published material. Aim number 3, to help candidates understand the rationale behind staging an English language lesson. And aim number 4, to provide candidates with different frameworks for teaching English language skills, systems, and literature. Now, let's have a look at paper 1 and let's see how questions are designed. Let's go. As we see, task 1 can be finished in 5 minutes, and it is for 12 marks, and it focuses on providing the right term to the definitions. So, for example, you're giving 6 definitions, and you're supposed to come up with one term. Now let's look at number 1 and try to answer it together. So number A says, a classroom dictation activity where learners are required to reconstruct a short text by listening and noting down keywords, which are then used as a base for reconstruction. Now, of course, the term here will be deck to class. So all what you need to do is to write deck to class, and now you answered number A. So it's not that difficult. All what you need is to watch the episodes of frameworks carefully so that you know the terms we used through the episodes, and then you write that in the exam. Good, lovely. So that's task 1. Now let's move to task 2 in paper 1. And task 2 is for 10 minutes and 8 marks. And it's kind of the opposite. So instead of providing the definition or asking you to provide the term, no, this time you have the term and you need to provide the definition. So as you see, for example, we've got 4 terms here. So we have noticing, discourse, emergent language, and all these terms have been used in so many episodes of frameworks. All what you need to do is to watch carefully and then look for the definition of these terms and provide them in the exam. So task 1 and 2 in paper 1 focus on terminology. So you're either given the term and you provide the definition, or vice versa. You've got the definition and you need to provide the term, right? So let's have a look at task 3. And task 3 is very, very important. And it is for 10 minutes and it is worth 15 marks. Now, this task focuses on your understanding of course book designing and how each activity in a course book is related to one of the stages in frameworks. So it kind of tests your understanding of how this activity works under the umbrella of a specific stage in a framework. So you're given a real page from a course book and you're asked, okay, well, this is a speaking lesson, like what we have here in this one. That's a speaking lesson. What about activity A? Which stage is it related to? What about activity B? Now let's look together. So for example, when we look at activity 1A, we might say, that might be a leading in the speaking lesson, and all what you need to do is to write in the chart you have there that 1A is part of leading, and there can be 2 activities under one stage, right? Or maybe 3 activities under one stage, right? So this is task number 3. Now let's move to task number 4. And task number 4 takes 10 minutes and it is worth 10 marks. And this task tests your understanding of the rationale behind every stage. So you are provided with a list of stages in a framework and you're asked about the rationale behind each stage. So for example, in the question we have here, we've got leading as number 1. So what is the rationale behind leading? Of course, everybody knows. All what you need to write is to generate students' interest in the topic of the lesson. Okay, and Bob's your uncle. Now let's move to task 5, which is a very, very important task because it tests your memory of framework stages. So for example, in the question you see now, you're given 5 frameworks and you need to write down stage names as you studied them in the episodes on our YouTube channel, right? So again, for example, if we look at TTT, then we said that we have leading, and then test 1, and then teach, and then test 2, and then feedback. So you need to follow the stages we talked about in our episodes, right? Okay, now let's move to paper 2. And paper 2 is different from paper 1. Paper 2 is a subjective test. And when I say subjective test, it means there is no one specific answer for paper 2. And that's why it's an open book exam, which means that you can search the internet in paper 2, you can open your mobile and look at books and things. You can bring books if you want with you and research them during the exam, right? Now paper 2 takes 2 hours, so that's very long. We said that paper 1, 50 minutes, but no, paper 2 is a 2-hour exam. Now, how many tasks are there in paper 2? It's 1 task, but this 1 task has 3 different parts, A, B, and C. Part A is worth 20 marks. Part B is worth 55 marks. And Part C, 55 marks. Now, what are the aims of Paper 2? And we have two main aims in Paper 2. Aim number 1, to increase candidates' knowledge in planning their own lessons using various teaching frameworks. And aim number 2, to help candidates design tasks that fit in the different teaching frameworks or stages. Now, as you see, in task 1 in Paper 2, we have a kind of an extract, and you need to use that extract to plan a whole lesson. And you're asked to use a specific framework, which is Digestipedia in here. So you need to take the text and turn it into a Digestipedia lesson plan. And of course, in order to answer a question like this, then you need to go back to the episode, okay, on Digestipedia. And someone might say, Shadi, can we do that in the exam? Yes, because it's an open book exam. You can do that. And someone might say, Shadi, what's the idea behind making Paper 2 an open book exam? It's because it focuses on planning lessons. And usually in real life, when you plan a lesson, you plan it with all resources around you. And that's why we said, we want this to be a replica of what happens in reality. So yes, we want to see how good you are in planning lessons, and then, okay, go ahead, go to the internet, search, go to the internet, watch the episodes, check them in the exam. It's up to you. Plan a good lesson. That's all what we want. So as you see, on page 3 in Paper 2, you have the cover sheet, or the normal cover sheet you have in lesson plans. And all what you need to do is to fill it appropriately. And this is what we call Part A in paper 2. Then this takes us to Part B. And Part B is to start the process of providing the stage names, the rationale behind every stage, the procedures, the timing, all that stuff. And this is also a very important part of Paper 2. And it's worth, as we said before, 55 marks. Then we come to Part C, which is about designing material. Because now you staged your lesson and you provided the rationale and everything, and you wrote the cover letter for your lesson plan. Now we want to see the kind of activities you created for the Digestipedic framework, okay? And we want to see them as the students will receive them in a real classroom. And again, that's why Paper 2 is far more important than Paper 1, because in Paper 2, you show us that you can actually take the content of the episodes of framework and turn them into something real. You can turn them into a real lesson plan that can be taken and applied in real classroom with the students. Okay? Right. So this is about the content of both exams. Right. Now there are 3 grades available for the TKF exam. Pass, and in order to get it, you need 100 marks in both papers, Paper 1 and Paper 2. Now pass with merit, and you need 130 marks to get it. And then pass with distinction, and you need 150 marks to get this one. Now, who is this exam for? It can be for a pre-service or an in-service teacher. So whether you want to be a teacher or you are already a practicing teacher, this exam is for you. It's also designed for teachers teaching primary, secondary, adult students, so it doesn't matter. And it's not designed only for native speakers. It is designed for native speaker teachers and non-native speaker teachers. And we expect teachers taking this exam to be at least at, the intermediate level or more. Of course, being at the upper intermediate is the best, but we expect them to be intermediate or more in order to be able to answer the exam. And my friends, here is a sample of the exam certificate. So again, we will be waiting for you. So my friends, if you want to have an access to samples of paper 1 and paper 2, please do that through the link you see on the screen. It will take you directly to Britishey.com, and you will see the exam page, and you can download actually the paper samples. And good luck with the first TKF exam. And don't forget to write me any questions you have in the comments. I'll be really happy to respond to them. So I'll see you in another episode of Frameworks. Bye-bye.